Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar, Post-Production Workflows in the Cloud, Next Great Leap for Media and Entertainment. My name is Diane Armstrong and I'll be your host. I work on the marketing team here at Teradici and I'm pleased to introduce today's speakers. Bruce Long, CEO and co-founder of Bebop Technology, and Randy Groves, Chief Technology Officer here at Teradici. Before we get started, I have a few housekeeping items. Today's webinar will be available for viewing on demand immediately after the live session through the same link that you're using now, and a copy of today's presentation will be posted for downloading under the Attachments tab. We'd love to hear from you, so if you have any questions during the webinar, please post them under the Questions tab, and we'll have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. If there are any questions that are not covered during our Q&A, we will answer them and post them under the attachments for this webinar. Finally, we value your feedback and would appreciate it if you would take a few moments to rate this webinar before you sign off after today's presentation. Now let's get started. Over to you, Randy.
Thanks, Diane, and thank you all for joining us this morning. I want to start with a kind of a brief overview of kind of the issues that are facing a lot of different industries and as things move to the cloud and then some of the solutions that Teradici is able to provide to help solve those problems. And then we'll turn things over to Bruce and let him give you some real-life examples of the kinds of things that they're able to do with our technology. So, you know, as people are looking to move their data and applications to the cloud, there's a lot of desire to do that because of the scalability and flexibility of compute and storage capabilities that are in the cloud. But as you do that, how do you do it in a way that keeps your workflows efficient and productive and secure all at the same time? There's lots of challenges related to that. People that have wanting to move applications to the cloud, if they face this very daunting task of having to take an existing application that's working just fine and rewrite it as a cloud-native app, and that's very difficult and time-consuming. And one of the advantages of moving to the cloud is being able to access your applications and your content and data from a variety of locations and devices, and again, that creates an additional security exposure relative to having sensitive data on those devices that you don't control. And so, that's the challenge that Teradici is trying to help customers across a wide variety of different kinds of use cases and applications, helping to solve those problems with our technologies. Just as an example here, this is, Bruce will go into a lot more detail on this kind of stuff, but if you think about digital media as an example, what you want to be able to do is create and review and consume all the content in one location in the cloud with a combination of all the computation, storage, and now with the ability for virtual workstations to be next to the content. That's the thing that really makes this possible, because it's fine to render all this content or capture and ingest all this content into the cloud, but if the applications that the artists and editors are using are remote, then you still have these large data files that are having to be shipped around, and you want it all to be centralized. And by doing that with our technology, you're able to have the people that are creating content work on it, as well as all the people that are reviewing and consuming it, and that solves a variety of issues for people as far as flexibility of where people can be to review or create. It makes the environment, you're not shipping files around, they're in one place where they're securely preserved in the cloud, etc. So there's lots of advantages and much more efficient workflow by being able to go all in on the cloud with the cloud workstations. So the technology that we use to deliver this is based on our PC over IP remote display protocol, which is used to actually deliver those workstation applications, deliver the pixels of those workstation applications to the remote clients. And these are the 5 tenets of that technology that we developed and have been delivering, and what sets it apart. So the first part is that it is a host-rendered protocol. So every pixel that is rendered in the data center, either in a workstation or a server. So the application is doing what would normally do on a local physical workstation. It's rendering directly to a local frame buffer, and we grab the stuff directly from there. So whatever you would have been seeing at a local display is what we're using to do the compression and encoding. We take that host-rendered frame buffer, and unlike video codec, which uses the same algorithm across the whole screen, we actually analyze the contents of the frame and detect computer-generated content, which is like text and graphics, which video codecs actually don't handle all that well, and we use different codecs for that content, which allows us to maintain the color accurate quality, as well as control the bandwidth and CPU loads that we use by being able to use multiple codecs across the same screen. The third item is the fact that we built this on top of a UDP protocol rather than TCP on the network, and all that you really need to know about that, if you're not a networking expert, is that's the same protocol that other interactive applications like video conferencing and voice over IP use, because when you're remoting a computer or a workstation in this case, it's an interactive application. It's not a passive video watching experience, and so when somebody clicks their mouse, they want the results to come back quickly, and so by using UDP, that gives us the flexibility to respond quickly and rapidly as the network conditions change and maintain that interactivity for the workflow. The fourth item is we're highly focused on security. Everything is encrypted from the frame buffer back in the data center to the frame buffer at the client, and so everything from your imaging, your keystrokes, all the data, or all the pixels anyway, that are being sent back and forth are encrypted so that they can't be intercepted, and maintains the highest level of security. And that's why this technology is extremely popular in all the high security verticals, including we have a very strong customer base in the defense and intelligence space for this reason as well. And finally, the technology is designed to be completely hypervisor and container agnostic, so you can see that we can support all of the major public clouds up there. We can support any private clouds that you have with whatever hypervisor you have, because we have no dependency on the hypervisor for doing that, which gives you additional flexibility. Okay, so let's quickly touch on the difference between video codec like H.264 and P4IP. As I said, video codecs were really designed for more like passive streaming of data, of images that are generally constantly changing and generally camera captured content. That's very different from computer applications, which are, and many times, obviously they're interactive rather than passive, but they're often static, like the computer I'm currently running this on. There's very little content that's changing, and almost all of the content on it is not a natural image, it's computer generated, and the compression of that kind of content with those kind of characteristics is very different. And so we have very specifically designed the codecs to be optimized for this. They are fully reversible from a color space perspective, unlike most video codecs, which use an irreversible color space correction, which means that you lose. It's no longer color accurate when it comes out the other end. So it's fully have the ability to efficiently build to a fully lossless image, which allows you to have much crisper, color accurate content, which obviously is very important for this space, in the media and entertainment space. And on top of that, we do all that while using less bandwidth and less CPU than the video codecs, because we're optimizing for the content, and that's really what's key about and making this an ideal cloud delivered protocol. So why are people interested in moving the workstations to the cloud? Well, obviously, the workstation user likes the extra flexibility of being able to access it from the office, from home, from the beach or wherever. They appreciate the fact that they don't have a loud, noisy workstation sitting underneath their desk. I mean, there's lots of benefits to the workstation user. The IT manager sees lots of benefits from being able to manage and control things, and more easily update things than when they're all dispersed physically. And of course, from a business perspective, you're going to get a lot more flexible workflows, ability to use artists and editors that may be geographically dispersed, that may be at tax-advantaged locations, for example, and all the same time making sure that that intellectual property is protected. So the way this works, Teradici's software sits up there in the cloud, compresses the user experience, so none of the critical data leaves, only the pixels, fully encrypted and sent to whatever device that the workstation user is using, whether it's a mobile device, iOS or Android, for example, or PCs or laptops or Chromebooks. We've got support for thin clients, and we have our own special zero clients, which are actually hardware implementations of the protocol. And so really the only thing they do is decode the pixels that are coming down. There's no operating system to manage, no security threats there, because you don't have a Windows or Linux operating system there that can be attacked and have keyloggers installed or any of that kind of stuff. So it's very easy to maintain, very highly secure, and because it's decoding in hardware, it's actually the highest performance of the options that are here as well. And so if we look again at the four different types that we have, I said the mobile clients, we support iOS and Android. We support Mac, Windows, and Chromebooks from a PC and laptop perspective. We have full support from the major thin client manufacturers, if you're interested in those, and then of course our P4IP Zero clients, which are available from over 30 different OEMs in a variety of different form factors and use cases with over 50 or 60 different types of options for you to pick from. All right, so that's the protocol and the clients. We have a base solution that Bebop is leveraging for their solution that we call our Teradici Cloud Access software. It's going to be a brief overview of what it does. It's a piece of software that you load into your workstation or virtual machine, and it's designed, as I said, it'll work on any of the public, private, or any hybrid cloud environments. It's today optimized for NVIDIA Grid, and it supports operating systems. So we support all the Windows client operating systems, as well as the new Windows Server 2016 in its personal desktop mode, and then support for the major Linux distributions as well. So a wide variety of options there. Obviously compatible not only with our Zero clients, but all the software clients I mentioned earlier. It supports up to 4 displays, supports up to Ultra HD resolutions, and supports any topology, portrait, landscape, however you want to arrange it. And we also offer what we call our Cloud Access Platform, which is a set of SDKs and APIs that allows you to customize this Cloud Access software, which is what our friends at Bebop have done. They've taken advantage of that and customized this and provided a full solution built on top of our Cloud Access software. And again, I think we've touched on a lot of these benefits already, but you know, being able to access stuff from the cloud has all the security of keeping your data all in one place. You can get the extra security of zero clients if you are even into that. You have a flexibility of choice of where you want to deploy this. You can pick any public or private cloud. You can pick whatever endpoints that you want to have. Of course, the protocol itself delivers an outstanding, seamless user experience. You know, essentially indistinguishable from under your desk, and we have a very broad ecosystem of partners that support the protocol. All of the major PC OEMs from Dell, HP, we have Samsung and LG on the monitor space. A lot of choice that you have relative, like I said, over 30 different OEMs that use our technology. And of course, the flexibility you get of anytime, anywhere, any device is just you know, one of the big compelling reasons why people want to move to the cloud. And just quick advertisement on Teradici. We've been around for more than 10 years. Been shipping product since 2007. A big ecosystem of partners and OEMs, and this is just some of the awards that we've won for those of you who haven't heard us. But we've been in this space for a long time and been very successful in delivering to customers in the media and entertainment space. So with that, I will turn it over to Bruce.
Thank you, Randy. I'd like to welcome everyone to the very first Bebop Teradici presidential debate. Oh, I'm sorry. Perhaps I got ahead of myself. So I like to say that before I get into my slides that everybody on our side in the Bebop family has a little bumper sticker on their car that says, "I heart PC over IP." We are big fans and good friends of the Teradici folks, and we're really happy to be able to chat with you guys here today about the Bebop offering. Essentially, fundamentally, Bebop is a solution that provides a platform for post-production softwares. It allows you to access those softwares over a 20 megabit line, a very small internet line, completely, totally securely. The advantages of that have sort of made their way out in the world. You'll see a few quotes up on the screen. One of them is from our now partner, but our then producer in London, Ben Folks, who said he sat in a coffee shop tethered to the hotspot on his 4G phone and was able to cut. He actually is a Formula One motorcycle racer and was doing a Formula One video series out in London and was actually cutting the series on a laptop in a coffee shop, honestly, later that day in a pub. So we've had a lot of luck out in the marketplace. There's another quote up on the screen from an editor that's working on a pilot on a Bebop platform, and he talks about avoiding his 3-hour commute on the 405 freeway. Those of you that know Los Angeles know that's a grueling, long drive, and he allows him to work from home very seamlessly and, again, completely securely. We're very proud that it empowers the individuals. We're going to talk a lot about how Teradici and Bebop not just empower workflows and empower levels of creativity, but give another quality to the editorial lifestyle. Give everyone a chance to have a life, perhaps. Okay, moving to the next slide. We are very aware that people perceive us as a disruptive solution. Certainly Airbnb might be the largest hotel company that owns no hotels. Alibaba might be the largest retailer that owns no stores. Bebop is the largest post-production and editorial company that actually owns no editorial workstations. You'll see at various times we're referred to companies like Uber or Skype. It's important to know that though we consider ourselves innovative, what we're really doing is delivering solutions that everybody's wanted for a long time, just in a more flexible way. The graph you see on the screen is a little bit like the warning, this is your brain on drugs. The industry workflow is your brain in file movement, is moving files around, and of course the bigger they are, the more valuable they are, the more scary it is, has always been a challenge in our industry. In visual effects, especially, getting files of original camera negative out to visual effects companies has been a challenging process. The cloud is really a cliche for what is truly a distributed solution. And that distributed solution, whether it's in a cloud or a basement, is simply putting the content in one place, completely secure. In this context, we're talking about a public cloud. We can certainly do it in a private cloud too. And we deploy infrastructure with software on top of it that allows us to stream the image using PC over IP. By allowing the content to stay in one place, it not only simplifies the workflow and reinforces the security, but allows for nomadic productions, it allows for distributed production, and it's really an empowering solution. At Bebop, we're committed to empowering the creative. At Bebop, we're empowering the industry. We will stay on cloud as long as cloud makes sense. It's more about distributing the work and getting it done efficiently than any given quote or solution. Cloud is one of those words that's had a lot of hype around it. I'm not going to say cloud a lot. I just want everyone to remember, when you make dailies, you're going out to an LTO, you're going out to a viewing dailies, and you're going out to an editorial. You're doing the very same thing with Bebop, except that editorial version is going out over a line up into one of the public clouds in our private storage, and we'll talk about that. We're very happy to provide a little question for you guys to give a little thought to. It's a question that refers to our roadmap. Today, as you probably know, Bebop offers editorial solutions on Avid and Adobe Premiere. We certainly are interested in any other input you have. We know that there are going to be challenges with some of the solutions you have up there in choices, but we're very eager to hear what solutions you're working on. Please feel free, by the way, to email us what you'd like to see on your Bebop platform. We love our Bebop users, and we're very eager to hear what softwares you'd like to use after we provide the Avid and the Adobe solutions. We, over the long term, intend to grow in many different directions. Today we are an editorial with our partners that you see on the screen. They, of course, include Microsoft Azure, Amazon, IBM Software, and Google. We're comfortable saying that we can provide you cloud solutions with any public cloud provider in the United States, in Europe, or through Canada. We are deployed in all of those markets. We are not in Asia yet, but we are making our way out there as fast as our little feet can carry us. I want to mention at this point, by the way, that we have 24/7 monitoring. This is a solution that is not just a plain software. Let's remember you're actually accessing it over a managed software network. So we are monitoring the users 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with live individuals staring at screens, making sure that if something isn't booting, if something isn't performing normally, we will jump onto it. Every user has an access to HipChat on their desktop, and it gives them the ability to create tickets, communicate with support in a real-time basis at any time in a session on Bebop. We're very, very proud, and I especially am proud that we support the creatives the management and the financial constituencies equally and equally powerfully. We're very happy that this solution provides an editor or an assist or even a producer the ability to do the work they do from their normal location, perhaps even from home, wait for the notes from the network, wait for the notes from the studio, and instead of sitting in their cutting room until all hours of the night, waiting for those notes to come back, sitting in front of the editorial system to make those changes, Bebop's solution empowers that editor, that assists, that producer, whoever's on that workstation, to wait until they get the notes, and wherever they are, that they have an internet line, they have a laptop or a PC handy, they can jump on that computer and make those changes. The practical way to think of that, as an editor is sitting from 9 until 6 o'clock at night, that work is being done and delivered. How often have any of us had a lifestyle that included notes, that included advice, that included conversations past that 9 to 6 window? I think the answer is all of us have. So the idea of providing tools to creatives, tools to our production people that they can access from anywhere allows them to go put their kids to sleep, to go out and have a nice dinner, to not be tethered to a workstation in a cutting room, moreover, to be free to do whatever they're going to do with their lives, and when those notes come in, to efficiently take those notes, revise their content on the workstation, wherever they are. It certainly is affordable. I'm going to promise you that it works in the work processes that we all want to work in, but I'm especially proud of the advantage it gives to the creatives. I think we probably should address a couple of questions. There's a question about the number of monitors that it can support, and a question about frame rate. Thank you for those questions. Right now, the system, Bebop, has multiple configurations. One of those configurations is a single monitor support. It allows the tool and the content to be on a single monitor. You can go out to an HDMI to a larger monitor or a larger TV. There's also a multi-monitor configuration, which soon will be available on Amazon. Today is only available on Azure and IBM SoftLayer. And that solution allows for a multi-monitor configuration. And of course, if you're using a Zero client, which are those dummy clients that just have software, a monitor, a keyboard, and a mouse, in those scenarios, certainly you have a multi-monitor configuration possibility. In terms of frame rate, when you're pushing through the frame rate, we have 24-frame playback over an 8-bit stream coming from the Teradici PC over IP solution and the Bebop software. So just to be clear, the computer in the cloud is operating as it normally would and is resolution independent. And as it goes down the Teradici, what we call tunnel, it is put into an 8-bit 1080p stream and is viewed in HD. I will address the host card, or actually, Randy, would you like to address the host card question?
Why don't we get through your stuff and we can do that one.
Okay, that sounds good.
Later.
Thanks, Rand. Okay, so I'll jump into the next slide, which is management benefits. The benefits of the management are very straightforward, and they're a happy thing. You'll notice we put the creative benefits first. We love that management can go to the creatives and go, hey, this is a really great solution, and quietly, behind closed doors, the fact that it's going to take less space, less power, provide better security, and have tremendous flexibility for the availability of the infrastructure, it takes away that gridlock of infrastructure, that need to get to the edit bay when someone's already using it completely goes away. All of those management benefits are in place without being binary to the creatives. They work hand in hand, as they do also with the financial slide and the financial benefits. What would a solution be, a creative solution be, if it wasn't able to provide a couple of additional values to the business side of the family? So I'm happy to say that though this is a magnificent creative solution, it is really especially beneficial to the financial side of the family. It is a little less expensive. in a daily, hourly, weekly, and monthly configuration. We charge hourly, but by the time you're done, it actually saves money all the way down the line. It is a CapEx solution in the sense that you never have to write a big check again. Take a minute, take that in. We'd like to deploy a production department. We'd like to deploy a production. We need to get a show going in 3 days. We don't want to rent it. We don't know what rental company to call. Stop. You don't need to move anything or do anything. You sign up for Bebop, you pull up your laptop, you ingest your material, which is loaded onto Aspera, and you go to work. That means you don't write a big check for hardware. That means you pay as you go. That means you don't need a big real estate footprint. That means you're not going to use a ton of power and a ton of environmental ugliness. It is a very green solution, but I think realistically it's an incredibly efficient solution, and that's why you get all these benefits. Randy, would you like to take a minute and talk about the security relationship Bebop and Teradici have?
Yes. Well, as I mentioned earlier, right, the critical piece of this is that all of the transactions and data, the pixels, keystrokes, everything that are going between the client device and the server in the cloud are fully encrypted, AES 256, all stuff that, like I said, are the security agencies that we're involved in helped us to develop and define, and really meets the highest levels of security, right? So that you can be assured that content and intellectual property is being very securely preserved up in the cloud. And in particular, if you're ultra paranoid and want to be sure that you don't have any keyloggers or screen scrapers on your client device, we have the Zero client devices that basically don't have an operating system on them, so that they people are unable to do that to those devices for just that extra level of security and, of course, high performance. So anyway.
Thank you, Randy.
Incredibly secure.
Yeah, no, and thank you, Randy. And we always are proud to say that this is the same solution used by a lot of the motion picture studios today for their compositing remotely. Some of that was done, I believe, on Star Wars. And we're very proud that we also provide an additional layer besides what Randy mentioned. We deploy on very private spindles within the public storage environment. We have a partner named Zadara, and when Bebop deploys your content in the editorial environment, it is not on public storage today. It is inside adjacent storage inside all of those public clouds on literally isolated private spindles. The family here at Bebop has a lot of experience. We've worked at companies like Technicolor and Deluxe and various other large and small production and post-production companies, and we know all too well how important, and as Randy said, paranoid, we've had to become to operate in what is a very, very aggressive piracy environment. So we strongly suggest moving your content to the cloud as quickly as possible and leaving it there and allowing Bebop to provide you the tools and solutions you need to execute on that work. As so many of you know, a lot of the delivery is being done in the cloud. Our partners at Netflix, our friends at Amazon, certainly have simplified the process. If there's any distribution going out to a cloud, having the content already in the cloud eliminates one additional step. There's always a lot of questions about uploading. I think you'll be excited to know that the solutions around uploading have really evolved. We have the ability here at Bebop to help you with your upload, both at very high bandwidth locations around the United States, as well as solutions through our partners like Technicolor and other post houses around the country and around the world. Today, as I mentioned, Bebop is deployed in the United States, in Canada and in Europe. The company is in full and complete compliance in those environments. And you can be assured that your content and your identity is secure on Bebop workstations. When you're interested, please reach out to us and we'll go over some of the more in-depth details of the picket fence that we built around your content in the cloud. We have a quick polling question. We're going to ask you guys to give us a little feedback. What is the most important factor to you in distributed work? Is it security? Is it ease of use or using the same work process? Potentially, is it the real estate or the additions you make in infrastructure by having a more efficient footprint? Is it the pay-as-you-go financial advantage of not having to spend to write a big check and do OpEx instead of CapEx? Or lastly, is it simply the affordability of being able to work in the cloud and all the financial advantages that that provides? So if you could give us some feedback on that, we'd love to hear your thoughts. I think the image you have in front of you now is a bad dream that I had for 30 years of my career. And that dream was, oh my God, something fell out of the back of the UPS truck and Mr. Spielberg is going to be so mad. Obviously, some of that is inevitable. There are still going to be UPS trucks and SneakerNet, probably as long as there are sneakers and there are trucks. However, we want to encourage you to make the giant step for man and the large step for mankind to send your content through the fiber to the cloud. Don't try to drive it every day, every way. We know we've been doing it like that for a long time. We've also been using suitcases without wheels. Why do you want a suitcase without wheels? Why do you want to drive a hard drive that can break or be stolen around the city? Please, when possible, help us make Hollywood and the entertainment community a more secure place. The fundamental truth for us is there's a reason why distribution has moved to the cloud. There is a reason why cloud is a cliche. It isn't just because Amazon has put a lot of money into advertising. It isn't just because Microsoft and Google, IBM, and the rest of them are big, giant, loud companies, though they are. It's because this is the wave of the future. After we get past this, we're going to experience augmented reality. We're going to experience virtual reality. We're going to go to a place that Magic Leap is going to bring to us. The vision for virtual reality, augmented reality, holographic imaging, whatever you think the next generation of content consumption is going to be like, we all know it's going to come probably via a stream. It's going to be accessible on our phones. It's going to be accessible on our TVs. And it's very likely not going to be in physical media. That is simply the way that we're going. It may change, and if it changes, Bebop will change with it. But today, we are proud that we are driving content to a solution securely placed in public and private clouds. We want you to know that because you participated in this webinar, and thank you for doing so, that we are going to provide an opportunity for you to be able to try out Bebop for no charge. So those of you that are interested can reach out to us and test drive Bebop for 2 hours for free when you sign up for a 16-hour pack, and we can explain that as time goes. But essentially, you sign up for a 16-hour package of editing, and you will end up with the system for free for 2 hours. And at that point, if you want to not use the system or just say, that was really fun, I'll try it when I need it, no harm, no foul, and we have it set up for your use. Certainly, we're very cognizant of the fact that we cannot keep up with the demand for Bebop today. So as the senior executive of Bebop, I'm going to first say I apologize for those of you that wanted Bebop in the past few weeks and have not been able to get your hands on the systems. The cloud deployment is actually very scalable. but please understand that we are now treading new territory, and we are getting the systems out in people's hands as fast as we possibly can. As many of you probably know, the systems are being tested at virtually every major studio, at every broadcast facility, and in productions here and around the world. It's being used on TV pilots as we speak. It's being used at broadcasters and cable companies. It's being used on a TV series. Very quickly, I want to make sure that I say that if you're uploading 4K material to the cloud, that certainly will take a few minutes if you don't have a big pipe, maybe even a few hours. But please remember, many people, if not all the users today using Bebop, are using it as an offline editorial system. What you're uploading to the cloud is proxies, and the time to get from when you ingest to when you edit is actually deceptively short. Don't be put off by the idea that uploading is going to create a bottleneck. We're here to help you work through those processes in your workflow, and we're here to make it happen for you. Are there some questions we can move to? We certainly do provide support for 4K playback. Remember that computers in the cloud are resolution independent, just like in visual effects. The only limitation is in viewing. We provide a stream that is a stereo stream, by the way. It does not have 5.1 audio today. So it's a stereo stream coming back in an HD resolution, but the 4K and multiple audio channels reside on the computer in the cloud, and of course the editorial work affects them normally as you would any other time. We are anxious to get this into the hands of editors, producers, productions everywhere. Please feel free to reach out to us on the Bebop website at info@beboptechnology.com. And we hope you enjoyed our webinar today. It is a beautiful 73 degrees and windy in Los Angeles. We hope it's lovely where you are today.
Okay, Randy, I believe that we had a question here on the host card.
Yeah, let me start first by talking about the software, cloud access software that we're talking about here that Bebop is using versus the Teradici remote workstation card, for those who may not be familiar with it. The Teradici remote workstation card is actually the first set of products that we delivered, and they actually use hardware to encode the pixels directly from the output of a physical GPU, so like an NVIDIA Quadro or AMD or Intel device, so using the HDMI or DVI or DisplayPort outputs. And because it does it in hardware, it's able to support higher frame rates and higher compression rates. And so again, the way the protocol works, we analyze the screen for each frame, and we only compress the pixels that have changed from frame to frame. So and that means that for cases where you may have a 4K monitor, but there's just a window of video in the upper right-hand corner that's running, you're not actually we're not actually processing all 4K pixels, right? We are only processing the ones that change. And so the way we talk about performance for these solutions, excuse me, is how many million pixels, changed pixels per second can be processed. And the host card that's mentioned in this question, our 2240, is capable of processing 250 million pixels per second, which clearly means obviously it can handle easily handle 60 frames per second on a 1080p solution, right? So that's in contrast, the cloud access software is doing its compression in software. And the current version that we have out, it depends, again, since it's being done in software, obviously depends on the CPU that you're running on, but for the type of hardware that you're typically using in these clouds, you can use a rough number of like 80 megapixels per second, right? So that's about a third the performance of the hardware. And that will allow you to support 1080p at 30 frames per second, but obviously not at 60 frames per second with that kind of capability. Likewise, if you're running a 4K, if you're trying to run 4K content, you're now talking something closer to 10 frames per second because of the speed of that. We are working to enhance the performance of the Cloud Access software piece of that. Hopefully we'll have some significant improvements sometime next year, but that's the level of what's currently available to answer those questions. And specifically, the question indicates that this individual is seeing artifacts even on a local network with our remote access card, and I would suggest that somehow you contact us in our support organization and to try and figure out why that's true, because we clearly have literally probably well over 100,000 of these deployed in exactly this kind of use case, and people are can't actually distinguish from their local workstation. So there's obviously something that we need to look at in your setup to try and figure out why you would be having those issues on a LAN with the remote workstation card. And I guess the second question that's associated with this is, what's the bandwidth you need? Well, it does depend on the content and how much is changing. I would say for a full resolution 1080p 30, if you want perceptually lossless quality, you should think 50 megabits during the time that's running. However, in your typical editing scenarios, again, the video that you're editing and scrubbing is not full screen. It's up up in the corner or whatever, and as Bruce says, 20 megabits is more than enough for handling your typical editing scenarios. So just to give you some range of what's required.
I'll jump in there, Randy. Thank you. So I was going to add, we actually have been doing, as many of you probably have joined us, have been doing demos. We did demos at NAB and in running around the wireless network in the hotel in Vegas, all the way down to airports. We've cut, and as a person that makes motion pictures myself, I have made changes on stuff on as small as an 8 megabit line. We don't recommend it because the playback is a little bit jumpy or stuttery, but certainly in terms of getting your work done or getting approvals for material, you can do that at 20 megabits comfortably and below. It gets a little more challenging. I wanted to answer a couple of the other questions that we got, and thank you guys for the questions. They're awesome. The pricing for Bebop is around $10 an hour plus about 15 cents a gig per month. I'll say that again, about $10 an hour, right? About $80 a day, about $400 a week, and that would include a license if you want to bring your own. We do, of course, work with the Adobe Cloud and Avid Media Composer, and we can work with your license, or we can provide you a license as need be. We are, as I mentioned, we're very happy that we work with Adobe and with Avid, and we have other softwares on the roadmap that we're going to be adding. And again, earlier on, we asked for your input because we'd like to make sure we have the tools you need as soon as we can get them there for you. It's important to mention that Bebop is going to provide a solution for being able to view the editorial process from multiple locations. You will be able to watch a session going down. Today, we use a third-party solution for that. I would say within a few weeks, perhaps a month or two, we will be able to provide a completely proprietary solution. Of course, as you would imagine, there are patents filed, provisional patents filed in much of what you see here on the Bebop platform. And a lot of what we do has been grown over the past 2 years of developing the software on top of Teradici's pervasive computing platform that we use. in terms of the conform and the final output, of course, that matters if you're going to be doing online in your facility or online in the cloud. Let me reassure you that we have tested it, and we have folks today cutting uncompressed 4K material in our Bebop platform, editing it, color correcting it, etc., and doing whatever is necessary to deliver the final deliverable. There's also the ability, of course, to just do the cut and do an output of a video and an output of your EDL, just the way you would on a hardware system. Common workflow, I want to just take a second and speak to that and demystify that if I can. I really want to reassure you that if you have a Bebop workstation and an internet line, you're going to be able to get to work just the way we promise. The upload times will really vary depending on the bandwidth that you have access to. But here's a quick walkthrough from the camera. Obviously, we're shooting on camera, and coming off that camera on location or locally is an original camera negative, and as I mentioned earlier, is a viewing proxy and an editorial proxy. You can certainly do DNX for the proxies. You can do H.264, H.265 for the proxies. As you all know, Avid would prefer a DNX, and Adobe is independent of any format for the timeline, so you can put whatever you want into the Adobe timeline. The advantage, though, for either one of those is to be able to access your software and your content, remember, not just from the cutting room where you have the hardware. Now the hardware goes away, and wherever you have your laptop or your PC, you will find your way to our location in Bebop and pull up your pervasive storage. So it really doesn't matter what you're on. You can change devices every hour, and you can do it. By the way, today, let me say, Bebop operates on a PC or a laptop. It will not operate on an iPhone or an iPad or a tablet. It's a temporary thing, but for a while, we want you to make sure you think of this as a solution for a computer, not for your tablet or your phone. There certainly is the ability to do multiple frame edits. The frame resolution, the frame rate comes out when you put it through the Teradici pipe at 30 frames per second. But of course, as it resides on the local computer, you can be in 24 frame, you can be whatever frame you need to be, and we can cut that in its native format. Randy, do you want to say anything about that?
No, I think you covered it.
Okay, thank you. I'm happy to repeat the pricing in case you didn't hear that. Depending on whether you do a single monitor, multi-monitor, etc., and depending on what softwares you have on your desktop, of course, we support the plugins like Sapphire, etc. We know the business. We come from the post-production world, so yes, we understand that you're going to need plugins with your editorial system, so what we put on your image is what you need. Please remember, if it's a physical dongle or it locks itself to an IP address, it will not go into the Bebop platform because we cannot put hardware into the public cloud. The efficiencies are garnered when we have a software solution that can be put into the image, and then multiple people can, of course, have access to that image. The audio playback, there is no lag, and it is a very wonderful audio experience. You'll be amazed to know that when you scrub, it actually scrubs in what appears to be completely real time with no lag. We've never had anyone complain about any lag on any of the workstations. I will promise you, of course, if we're using a workstation on the West Coast of the United States, we're going to be directing it from the user on the West Coast. If they're using a system on the East Coast, we're probably going to be based in one of our East Coast clouds. And when you're working in London or Europe, you're going to be working in Bebop Dublin. So it's important to know that we do geographically locate based on the network you're on and where you're emanating from. Bebop certainly will work on a zero client. We're very happy that there's a lot of different ways you can access the Bebop platform. Certainly on a zero client, the host card is perfectly okay. The system, great question about the HDR movie. That's a big personal point for me. I have done a lot of development in the HDR community, and I'm proud to say that I have a few provisional patents in that with Daryl Strauss in that area. Let me throw out there that HDR, along with augmented reality, virtual reality, 20/20 color space, is really about the computer in the cloud, not so much about the Bebop platform or the Teradici solution. Remember, the computer in the cloud is just like every other computer in a visual effects environment or a post-production environment. It is exactly the same computer you'd be using for processing and storage. It has exactly the same capabilities. The limitation in the viewing is simply that. It's one way to make sure we have absolute security and we can provide the minimum requirement, as I always say, for getting to the cloud is perfect security. There is a roadmap for sound design, and Randy, I don't know if you want to speak to that at all, but certainly it's important to point out that we're deploying on the picture side first, and most of our focus to date has been in picture-based solutions. We'd love to hear your feedback if you're interested in more audio solutions, and we do have on our roadmap supporting all of Abbott's tools, including the ISIS Nexus solution, and of course including Pro Tools. There is no maximum to the bandwidth. The bigger the pipe, the faster it goes, but there is really no maximum bandwidth per se. The maximum resolution will... Go ahead, Randy, I'm sorry.
Yeah, as I said, you can restrict the maximum bandwidth if you want. There's settings that can be done there. And, you know, like I said, at 250 megapixels, if you're running a host card with that much changing content and it's high resolution, we have customers that are doing that in primarily LAN environments or very high bandwidth, virtual, private networks. But because when you're running a full 250 megapixels per second with what you want to be perceptually lossless content, that can easily consume half a gigabit, excuse me. So that's those kind of use cases. We're not anticipating, obviously, being something that you try to run over a DSL or a cable modem line. Those are typically either on-premises LAN, or we have lots of customers that run 10 gig lines between Vancouver and LA and work that way for that kind of use case.
Thanks, Randy.
Okay. Hello, it's Diane. I'm going to interject here because we're just about at the top of the hour now, and those questions that we were unable to answer, we will definitely answer and post them under the attachments for this webinar. So we wanted to thank everyone for joining us today. With a special thanks to our presenters, Bruce Long and Randy Groves. We hope that you found today's webinar insightful. I certainly did, and we would greatly appreciate your feedback. So if you take a few moments to rate the overall webinar before you sign off, that would be great. Teradici runs a series of webinars, so please check out our website for upcoming webinars, and we look forward to you joining us again. Thanks a lot, and have a great day.